My dear children, in the previous class, you have learnt about the lesson The Concert by Shanta Rameshwara Rao. So now I am going to review what you have learned. Now I am going to know what you have learned in the previous class. Okay? Now I am going to ask you some questions related to the lesson. For a moment, Smita had forgotten something. What was it? Yes, Smita, a moment had forgotten that her brother was ill. Her brother was not in a good condition. Yes. Smita a moment had forgotten that her brother was ill. Her brother was ill. Next question. In what way was the truth frightening to Smita? In what way was the truth frightening to Smita? Smita knew that Anand was going to die. The word cancer had hung in the air. Her brother was dying of cancer. Her brother was dying of cancer. This truth was frightening Smita. Smita knew that her brother Anand was going to die of cancer. Going to die of cancer. This truth was frightening Smita. Next question. Do you consider Anand a talented boy? Justified with support from the text. How do you say Anand was a talented boy? How do you say Anand was a talented boy? Yes, Anand was the best table tennis player. He was the fastest runner. He was able to compose his own tune. Anand was the best table tennis player. He was the fastest runner. He was able to compose his own tune. Able to compose his own tune. So what were the hopes Anand's family had? Yes, they had come with high hopes. What were their high hopes? Their high hopes were I was were, you would again walk. Again walk and run. Walk and run. You would take part in the forthcoming table tennis tournament. You would take part in the forthcoming table tennis tournament. You would play sitar and would be a great sitarist one day. So these were the hopes they had. Suddenly a daring thought came to her. Can you guess what thought Smita had? What thought Smita had? Yes, we can guess that thought. She made up her mind. She had decided to request Pandit Ravi Shankar. She had decided to meet the Pandit Ravi Shankar to come to her house and to play for her brother. Yes, we can guess the thought. She made up her mind to meet Pandit Ravi Shankar to come to our house and play for a brother. Play for a brother. Okay. You have answered all the questions correctly. So now let us continue the lesson. The consent. The lesson. Consent. Okay. So open your textbook and come to open your textbook. So listen to me while I am reading the lesson. The next day, as Smita and her father were leaving for the concert, her brother smiled and said, "Enjoy yourself." Though the words came out in painful gasps, "Lucky you." Sitting beside her father in the gallery, Smita heard as in a dream the thundering welcome the audience gave the great master. Then the first notes came over the air, and Smita felt as if the gates of enchantment and wonder were opening. Spellbound, she listened to the unfolding ragas, the slow plaintive notes, the fast twinkling ones, but all the while, the plan she had decided on the evening before remained firmly in her mind. The chance of a lifetime. She heard Anand's voice in every beat of the tabla. The concert came to an end and the audience gave the artists a standing ovation. A large mustached man made a long, boring speech. Then followed the presentation of buckets. Then more applause and the curtain came down. The people began to move towards the exits. Now was the time. Smita wriggled her way through the crowds towards the stage. Then she went up the steps that led to the wings, her heart beating loudly. In the wings, a small crowd had gathered to talk about the evening concert, to help carry buckets and teacups and instruments. He was there standing with the man who played the tabla for him, the great wizard of music, Ustad Allah Raka. Her knees felt weak, her tongue dry, but she went up and standing before them, her hands folded. "Oh sir," she burst out. Yes, he asked questioningly but kindly. And a story came pouring out the story of her brother who lies sick at home and of how he longed to hear him and the Ustad play. "Little girl," said the mustached man who had made the long speech, "Panditji is a busy man. You must not bother him with such requests." But Pandit Ravi Shankar smiled and motioned him to be quiet. He turned to Ustad Sahib and said, "What shall we do?" Ustad Sahib. The Ustad moved the wad of palm from one cheek to another. "Tomorrow morning we perform for the boy." "Yes," he said. "Yes," Panditji replied, "it's settled then." It was a very excited Smita who came home late at night. Anand was awake, breathing the oxygen from a cylinder. Did you hear him?" he whispered. Did you hear him?" he whispered. "I did," she replied, "and I spoke to him, and he will come tomorrow morning with the tabla Ustad, and they all play for you." And the following morning, Aunt Sushila's neighbors saw two men getting out of a taxi which pulled up outside their block. They could not believe their eyes. It is not possible," they said. Pandit Ravi Shankar and Ustad Allah Raka went up the wooden staircase and knocked softly on the door of Aunt Sushila's apartment. They went in, sat down on the divan by the window and played for the boy. Surrounding him with a great and beautiful happiness as life went out of him gently, very gently. Okay? I think we have understood the lesson. Now, I am going to ask you to read the lesson silently and try to understand. After that, I am going to ask you some questions related to the lesson. Okay. So read the lesson silently. Yes, have you finished your reading? Okay. Now I am going to ask you some questions. Yes. The word gasp, according to the dictionary, suggests surprise or pain. Which meaning is relevant in this context? Which meaning is relevant in this context? Yes, pain. The meaning of the gasp in this context is pain. The meaning of the gasp in this context pain. Context is pain. As Smita sat listening to the music, she was spellbound, but all the while her mind was echoing something else. What was that? As Smita sat listening to the music, she was spellbound, but all the while her mind was echoing something else. What was that? Yes, as Smita was listening to the music, she was spellbound, but all the while her mind was echoing the pain she had decided on the evening, remained firmly in her mind. Remained firmly in her mind. Her decision was echoing in her mind when she was listening to the music. What was her decision? What was her decision? Yes, she decided to meet Pandit Ravi Shankar. She decided to meet Pandit Ravi Shankar to come to our house and play for her brother. So this was echoing in her mind. This was echoing in her mind. Why does the writer use the word regaled to describe Smita's moment? To describe Smita's moment. Why does the writer use the word regaled to describe Smita's moment? Yes, there was a great crowd. She was more anxious. She was more anxious. Her heartbeat was loud. Her heartbeat was loud. She felt her knees weak. She felt her knees were weak. So she cannot walk straightly, but she moved in a regaled way. She moved in a regaled way. There was a great crowd. She was more anxious. Her heartbeat was loud, and she felt her knees weak. So she came. She cannot walk straightly, but she moved in a regaled way. Next question. Yes, do you think the response of the artist was unusual? If not, why? Do you think the response of the artist was unusual? Yes, the response of the artist was unusual. Why? Generally, the great artists are always busy and they have no time. The great artists were always busy and they had no time to listen or attend these types of requests. The great artists were always busy and they had no time to attend such requests. The neighbors could not believe their eyes. Why do you think they feel like this? The neighbors could not believe their eyes. Why do you think they felt like this? Yes, the neighbors could not believe their eyes because Pandit Ravi Shankar was very famous, very great artist and very busy man. It was very difficult to take his call sheet. How could they believe such a great person could come to their poor dwelling and give a concert? Yes, next question. We move on to the next question. Did Pandit Ravi Shankar and Ustad Allah Raka perform in the boys' house? Do you think this was an unusual incident? If yes, give reasons. Yes, of course. Pandit Ravi Shankar and Ustad Allah Raka performed in the boys' house. Performed in the boys' house. This was an unusual incident. How can you say that it was an unusual incident? Such a famous artist coming to a common boy's apartment. Such a great personalities coming to a common boy's apartment and gave a performance was a big deal. It was a great thing. Okay. Have you understood? Okay. Sorry. We have answered all the questions. Well, now I am going to take some extracts from this lesson. I must hear him and see him. I must hear him and see him. said this? Who is the I? Who said this? Anand said this. Anand said this. Who does the him refer to? Who does the him refer to? Yes, the him, the word him refers to Pandit Ravi Shankar. The word him refers to Pandit Ravi Shankar. Yes, when did he say so? ಯಾವಾಗ ಈ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ? So when he heard about Pandit Ravi Shankar's play, when he heard about Pandit Ravi Shankar concert, yes. Okay. Now we have come to the last stage of this class, that is home assignment. Yes, take down some questions. As Smita sat listening to the music, she was spellbound. But all the while her mind was echoing something else. What was that? As Smita sat listening, to the music, she was spellbound. But all the way, her mind was echoing. Something else. What was that? Second question. How did Smita enjoy the concert? The neighbors could not believe believe the lies. Why? Yes, take down all these questions and try to answer them in your home and submit it in the next class. Okay, thank you.